So let's have a little chat, shall we? Let's have a little occult chat. This is your host, The Occult View. I'm just going to get right into what to talk about. I know this is Juneteenth. I know a lot of people are celebrating that. And, the only thing that I ask is that you always, make sure that you understand that it's not just about eating chicken and baked beans and hot dogs and hamburgers and pasta salad and ribs and corn and all of the good food that comes along with, celebrating a holiday of this nature. It's about speaking to your ancestors, acknowledging them. We should acknowledge them every day, but on this day, giving them acknowledgement for their sacrifices and actually feeling that gratitude, not just saying it with your mouth. I think that is a lot of the problems with a lot of black people today. We've lost connection with spirit. We've become so robotic and AI in our energies that we don't feel anymore. We don't feel. We don't feel. We just say, we do, we see, but we don't see. We hear, but we don't listen. We hear, but we don't hear because we're disconnected from spirit because we're so busy trying to emulate what we think spirit is and what we think wealth and prosperity is. Wealth and prosperity is not a house. Wealth and prosperity is not a house. Wealth and prosperity can bring you materialistic things. But wealth and prosperity starts with integrity and wisdom and knowledge. Wealth and prosperity for me starts with redemption and justice. Being in a certain state of health, not just physically, but mentally as well. Because a lot of you motherfuckers that run to the motherfucking gym, and I'm talking about a lot of you men, I'm not talking about women. A lot of you motherfucking men that run to the motherfucking gym and got all them fucking muscles and shit like that, you are some of the most toxic malignancies that ever walked the earth. And I don't give a fuck who gets offended by it. You work on the body, but you don't do anything to work on your mind. A lot of times people talk about, oh, well, if you do certain physical things, it will help your mind. No, it won't. You have to actively and purposely work on your mind or work on your spirit. And going to the gym ain't working on your motherfucking spirit. Muscles have nothing to do with spirit. That's all physicality and all trivial. That's all trivial and physicality and carnal. Yes, physical is important if you want to maintain a healthy body as long as you're here. I get that. But no one works on the spirit anymore. No one operates to spirit. And that's what I really wanted to talk about. There's a young man on YouTube who I will not name. He's very well known here on YouTube. He's a black young man, of course. And he's going through some really, really challenging things right now. He's dealing with a lot of anxiety, I think depression, panic attacks, and these things have been afflicting him for a long time, for a very long time. And he's at the point now where he wants to basically unalive himself. If you know what I mean when I say unalive himself, you have to say it that way now on YouTube because everybody's so sensitive. And I'm reading the comments, me being an occultist, and a spiritual person, I'm reading the comments, and I find the comment, number one, it was very troubling reading some of those comments because some of those people really should not be given, they should not, without a doubt, they should not be advising and giving this young man advice because a lot of those people don't know what the fuck they're talking about. And they're probably making his situation worse. Like one person commented, you should not unalive yourself because death can be worse than living. That's a stupid motherfucking comment. That's a stupid motherfucking comment. No, we don't consciously know on a physical level what death is like, but we know on an unconscious level what it's like because before any of us were even in existence, what do you call that? What do you call that? So that was a stupid comment for that person to make. Stupid, unspiritual, non-spiritual, uneducated, with no coof, with no sensitivity, no compassion. Then one person commented, two people actually commented that he needed to take a better stance on his physical health. And he needed to work on his gut health and try to lose weight. And they were talking about how, the foods are laced with chemicals. He needs to go on a fast. He needs to eat a bunch of fruits and vegetables. First of all, I'm so tired of you vegan, obsessed motherfuckers. I am so tired of you motherfuckers with this vegan and fruit bullshit. Everything on this planet is motherfucking toxic if you want to be technical. It's not just meat. Okay? It's not just meat. That's number one. And while I don't think this person meant any harm, I don't think he meant any harm. Let me tell you a story. There was an entertainer, I'm going to call her an entertainer, named Wendy O. Williams. Do not confuse her with the talk show host or the radio show host Wendy Williams, who had her own talk show. No, Wendy O. Williams was she was a rock star, and she was part of a group called I think was it the Plaza? What was it? The Plaza? Wait a minute. Let me look it up. Let me look it up. Hope everyone's having a good day. Please don't forget to hit the like button. Yeah, she was part of the Plasmatics. That was a rock group back in the late 70s, okay? She was part of this group. Her name is Wendy O. Williams. And I really fucked with her. I fucks with Wendy O. Williams, okay? Because she really was like a rebel in a sense. She was a white girl. And she was like a rebel. She didn't care if she didn't care if other white people were or had an issue with the fact that she supported gay people and she supported black people. She used to get beat up a lot, and she was a Gemini too. And incidentally, this young man that's going through this, he was a Gemini as well. He's a Gemini as well, okay? Wendy O. Williams, she used to get beat up by the police and everything at that time because at that time they felt like as a white woman, she should not have a bunch of, N words and F words in her group. She liked gay people and she liked black people. And that's why I fucks with her. She was a rebel and she went against the status quo. Wendy O. Williams had a lot of mental issues. And to make a long story short, she was a vegetarian. She loved animals. She did not eat animals. She ate no animal products. She was in her I guess in her walk, she considered herself deeply spiritual. And again, she was vegetarian. Okay? In 1998, and this was her second or third attempt. In 1998, she used a gun to unalive herself. And she was only 48 or 49 at the time. She played in a movie that I really liked. She played this character named Charlie Chambliss. She played in Reform School Girls. That's an old, trashy B movie about these girls in this reform school, and she played a Charlie, and she was a lesbian, you know, and she was a bully. And for someone that really wasn't into acting, she played that motherfucking role, Chambliss Charlie. That was my motherfucking girl. I liked her. I liked her. That was my girl. I liked her. But when I read her story, it was very, very tragic. It really was that she took her life at such a young age. I mean, she was only 48. But the point that I'm making is this. She was a vegetarian. She lived a healthy lifestyle. She did not eat any animal products. She lived a very healthy lifestyle, but yet she still felt the need to unalive herself because there was a void inside of her that nothing could fill. So when I see people talk about, oh, you need to do this, or you need to do that, or you need to change your diet, all of that is all well, fine, and good. But in actuality, what's happening with a lot of these people is a spiritual warfare with inside of them. There are demons. They have demons that they're not dealing with, and those demons are dealing with them. And I don't mean that in a bad way when I say demons, because I don't want to seem like I'm demonizing this young man. I'm not. He's a very talented, and I really like, I like some of the things he stands for. He's very talented, and I like him. I do. But there's a lot of demons that he's not dealing with. He's not dealing with them. And when you don't deal with them, this is the result of it. You will have panic attacks. You will have anxiety. You will have depression and all of these things. And I'm looking at it from the spiritual aspect of it, And sometimes that void gets so big that there's nothing that you can really do but either keep fighting or I don't know. But the point that I'm making is that a lot of times it's more than just changing your diet. When you're going through a spiritual warfare, when you are in a spiritual warfare with yourself, within your own mind, changing your diet and eating greens and organic food is not going to solve the problem. It's not going to solve the problem. Then we have to look at where he's at in his life right now. He's 36 years old. That is a very, very precarious, delicate stage in a young man's life. And I'm only speaking for young men. That is a very precarious stage because I went through the same exact thing. Let me tell you something. Back in 2016, I was 36, getting ready to go into 37. That was a very, very interesting time for me. But what really made me realize what stage I was in life at that time was when how can I put it? Let me put it this way. I was so busy at that time in 2016 getting dicked down by men. I was too busy getting dicked down. I wasn't paying attention to nothing. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't paying attention to nothing. I was too busy having fun, having sex, living my life. I'm like, I'm still young. I ain't got no diseases. I'm good. I'm healthy and I'm still healthy. No diseases. You know what I'm saying? I'm young. Men like me, I was still having fun. I was still having fun. But what really made me realize that the fun was covering up me dealing with something that was coming, that was on the horizon. And what was on the horizon was my own spiritual evolution, my own rebirth, and my own demons that I had really been covering up, having the fun. You know what I'm saying? When my friend Christopher died, Christopher Barry, when he died in 2016, that brought out everything that was already there that I wasn't really paying attention to. And sometimes trauma can make you look at other things, not necessarily the specific trauma that traumatized you, but it can make you look at other traumas that you haven't dealt with. So in my case, when Christopher died, that traumatized me because I had never really felt that way about any man before, let alone a black man, another black man. I had never felt that way about any man before. Christopher was one of the first men that really showed me, and here we go, he was a Gemini too. He was a Gemini as well. And I normally don't get along with Geminis, men, but I got along with him. And I think the reason we got along was because he was pulling from his Virgo. He was pulling from his Virgo. And I am a Virgo. So it was an even exchange. He wasn't operating in his Gemini. He was operating more so in his Virgo. And I know a lot of people don't understand that, but I just know what I know. So anyway, when he died, that forced me to look at a lot of different things. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, I really liked him. After he passed, that made me grow up spiritually. And then I began to look at where I was. Now when he died, I was 36 going into 37. And those are very pivotal times in a young man's life because you're basically at a crossroads. This particular individual, he's 36. He's going in and out of the third, sixth, and the ninth dimensions within himself. He's going in and out of those different dimensions and those different frequencies. So with dealing with that, it can cause depression. It can cause anxiety and all of these different reactions within the brain and the body. And greens and squash and kale is not going to help that. And then what ends up happening is that when you're dealing with one trauma, it will uproot other traumas that you probably haven't dealt with. Now, for me, I was still grieving my grandmother who died 30-some years prior because her death was so sudden and unexpected. And she died at a very young age. And it left a blanket of uncertainty and a blanket of unhappiness and division over my family till this day. Till this day, my family has not been the same since my grandmother died. My mother and her brothers and sisters, they're all at odds all the time. It just hasn't been the same. So when I was going through that, I had a lot. For me, it showed up as depression. For this young man, whatever he's going through, it's showing up as anxiety and panic attacks. But it's the same thing. He is at a crossroads in his life, but I don't think he understands that because I don't think he taps into, spirituality the way that he probably should. So the people that are in that comment section that are talking about you need to do this and you need to do that and you need to change your diet and gut health and all that stuff. Yeah, all of that is all well, fine and good, but none of that is going to matter if you're in a spiritual warfare. I was in a spiritual warfare at that particular time in my life. I was in a major spiritual warfare after my friend Christopher passed away. I was in a major spiritual warfare. I was very depressed. I was crying all the time. I could not eat. I did get sick for a little while. I'm not going to go into details about that, but I did get sick for a little while, you know. But I got back on track. I got back on track. Because I'm just, I'm built differently than other people. And when you have the spiritual backing, that can have an influence on how you get back on track. So I understand what that young man is going through, and he's a gay young man too. And with that comes a lot of baggage and a lot of issues as well. So when I look at him, I kind of see myself too. Because I'm going to tell you something, back during that time when I was grieving my friend Christopher Berry passing away, I was contemplating suicide at that time as well. And I'm not ashamed to say that. Because I was at a very low place because I was battling demons. And no kale helped me. You know what helped me? What really helped me was facing that grief, acknowledging it, and dealing with my demons. This young man said that, and I heard him say something in the video, and that really, really gave me an insight. I said, that's probably one of the things that he's dealing with. He misses his grandmother, just like I missed my grandmother. Just like I missed my grandmother. I grieved for my grandmother for many, many years, and I didn't even know it. I didn't know that pain was still sitting there. And then when Christopher died, it brought that pain back up, and it connected to the pain that I was already feeling because of his death. And it magnified it. And then at that time, I was already going through a spiritual evolution and a spiritual, what do they call it? I was already going through a shift because I was 36, getting ready to go into the ninth dimension, the gateway of death and rebirth. And instead of going through the gateway of death, well, I did go through the gateway. I went through the gateway of death, and I was reborn. And that's what's happening to this young man as well. Because we're going to go through these spiritual changes, whether you're ready for them or not. We're going to go through them. And I'm not talking that way about this young man. I'm saying this in general. We're going to have spiritual changes, whether we are ready or not. It's ready or not. Here I come. You can't hide. I'm going to find you. We're going to experience changes, spiritual changes. You have to be conscious of that. So now, because of what I went through then, I can look at other young men in that that's getting ready to go into that middle point, and I understand what they're going to go through. It usually starts around 35, and then 36 is when you start feeling it a little bit more, but 37 is when your ass is through the door. 30, when you get to 37, that point 37, 3 plus 7 is 10. That's a new beginning. That's the Alpha and the Omega. That's a new beginning. That's also the number of Isis and Osiris. Heaven and hell. Isis was the queen of heaven. Osiris was the king of hell, allegedly. I'm being, I'm being a little bit, layman when I say that. So it's a struggle. It's a struggle. You're battling different aspects of you and environmental influences around you. So it's not just as simple as changing your diet. You have to change your mind first, and then it will be a trickle down effect. And I don't mean your physical mind, I mean your spiritual mind. That's what you have to do. And if you have to talk to a counselor or a someone, then you do that. Some people actually do need that and should not be knocked for getting that type of help. But it's more complex than just eating a vegetable and changing your diet. Because the chemicals are in the fruits and vegetables too, if we want to be technical. And I don't care if you get organic. Right now, that young man he's going through a spiritual warfare within himself because he doesn't understand what's going on. Once you have understanding, then that is one of the first steps to kind of curbing and easing some of those symptoms. When I began to understand what was happening to me, and let me be clear, let me be abundantly clear, no one helped me through this. There were people that did talk to me and gave me encouragement and stuff like that. But when it came down to actually doing the work, I had to do it myself. So from 2016, not the full year of 2016, but from August of 2016 until probably 2019, I went through this for 3 years almost. I went through these changes for 3 years. So from 2016 until 2019, 2019 is when things started to really kind of clear up. The clouds started to recede and the sun started to shine again. So it's like a 3-year period. And when you really look at it, when you really do all the calculations, it also ties into how can I put it? I think it's the 3 trimesters of birth. It's the conception, the pregnancy, and then the birth. That's 3, 3, 3. That's 9 months. That's 9 months for it to take a baby to come into the world. And that's like, for me, it was the 3 years. It was still the 999, but it was the 3 years that it took me to heal in my rebirth. He's going through a rebirth right now. He's going through a rebirth, but it's coming out as panic attacks and anxiety attacks. And he's going to have to go through that rebirth. It is difficult, but you got to go through it. We go through it in different stages of our lives as long as we are alive. We go through these spiritual changes. And it can be mentally draining. It can be mentally upsetting and challenging. But what's more mentally upsetting and challenging is people who are trying to tell him it's something that it's not. It's more to it than him just being anxious or panicking. Because this is my specialty. I see the symptoms and I see what's going on with him because I went through the same exact thing. I went through the same exact thing when I was his age. So that's how I know, and that's why I can say what he's going through. But it's more than just your diet. And that's basically really all I wanted to say. I really didn't want to get too much into it, but I wanted to say that because I see people putting out that information. It's more than just your diet. It's a spiritual thing, it's a spiritual warfare. Anyway, that's all I have to say. Um, I hope everyone has a good day. Thank you.